Local social, it's the Splash Live, only on Civic Center TV. Hello everyone and welcome to the show. I'm your host Jonathan Montgomery and thanks for tuning in. After years of dedicated service to the West Bloomfield community, Greg Flynn was recently recognized by the Township Board as he prepares to begin a new chapter in retirement. During a recent board meeting, township officials honored Greg Flynn for his commitment, leadership, and lasting contributions to the community, thanking him for the impact he has made throughout his career. Prior to an outpouring of tributes, Chief Flynn made his farewell address to the public. Take a look.
Thank you. Public service is not easy. The decisions you make often involve competing priorities, difficult choices, and significant responsibility. Throughout my career, I have been fortunate to work with leaders who recognize the importance of investing in public safety and supporting the men and women who provide the services every day. When I joined the department in 1998, I couldn't have imagined standing here today. I've had the opportunity to serve as a firefighter, a paramedic, EMS captain, assistant chief, and finally chief of the department. Through every role, one thing remained constant: our mission to serve others. People will, over the past few weeks, have often asked, what am I most proud of in the time serving with the WBFD? And it's not a building project, it's not a budget accomplishment, it's not a piece of apparatus or a program that was developed. It's the people that made all of those things happen. It's the firefighters and paramedics who respond at all hours of the day and night. It's the company officers that lead in challenging situations and step into meeting the expectations of fire administration. It's our civilian staff who keep us organized and moving forward. To my fellow department heads and township employees and community partners and elected officials, all working together to move the township forward. The greatest privilege of this career has been the relationships, and those relationships will stay with me long after leaving this position. Over the years, I've come to appreciate what makes West Bloomfield so very special. This community is often, communities in general are often defined by their institutions, but they are sustained by people. I've watched neighbors help neighbors. I've watched businesses support important causes, volunteers step forward when needed, public servants working together to solve difficult problems. Those experiences have reinforced my belief in what West Bloomfield truly is and what makes it truly a special place. I'm proud of what the WBFD has become. It's a professional, well-respected, community-focused organization committed to excellence and continuous improvement. More importantly, it's an organization filled with people who genuinely care about serving others. The culture will continue long after any one of us moves on. And I'm very proud of that and the team standing behind us here. As I prepare to leave, I do so with tremendous confidence in the future. I congratulate Deputy Chief Lowry on his appointment as the next fire chief of the West Bloomfield Fire Department. Mark has dedicated his career to this department and community. He is a thoughtful leader, a trusted colleague, and someone who has earned our members' respect. I've had the privilege working alongside him for many years, and I know the department, the township, and our residents will be well served under his leadership. The future of the WBFD is bright. As I conclude my service, I do so with gratitude. Gratitude for the opportunity to serve. Gratitude for the friendships and partnerships formed over the years. Gratitude for the trust of this board, for the fire department, and the community that is placed in me. For nearly 3 decades, I've had the pleasure of being part of something much bigger than myself. It's been an honor to serve alongside so many of the people here tonight in a community that has always expected and supported excellence. I believe the fire chief office belongs to the community, not to the person who occupies it. I was fortunate to hold that responsibility for a time, and I leave it knowing that it's in good hands. Thank you for your trust. Thank you for your partnership. Thank you for your friendship. It truly has been an honor.
And right there you can see Chief Flynn just talking about, taking over. Mark Lowry will be taking over Chief Flynn as fire chief, and also Deputy Chief Blake Belsky will be taking over for where Mark Lowry, where his position was. So just a little bit changing of the guard, but also, he was saying, necessarily is a retirement, but they were saying a rewirement where he necessarily won't be on the beach, sipping, just chilling or anything like that. He will be, still active in the community, and it's just going to be great things, and we just can't wait to see, how great they do as they take on these new positions. Recently, residents at Magnolia by the Lakes gathered to celebrate America's 250th anniversary, reflecting on the nation's history while sharing personal memories of events and milestones that have shaped the country. The patriotic event brought together residents, families, and community leaders to honor the past and look ahead to America's future. I stopped by this event to see what it was all about.
We were really focused on honoring the history of the United States of America. We wanted to show the residents a reenactment of the signing of the Constitution. We wanted to really harp on how important these traditions, the national anthem, even the flag, it all has a place in history that has accumulated in the America that we know and love today.
Well, it's absolutely wonderful to celebrate this beautiful country of ours, and it's also beautiful that Dr. Bagney has invited so many people here to celebrate this happy birthday celebration for America.
Man, it was an amazing event. It rained, but the amazing thing is it didn't stop anything. Like, they just came, still celebrated, still did everything, had a great time. And, Dr. Bagney did an amazing job at that. Had her family involved too, so it was a great, family moment. Her sons were there, her grandson, her granddaughter, everybody was involved in this. So it was just showing how you connect generations, and celebrating, this tradition, celebrating America's, semi-quincentennial. I practice it at home. Semi-quincentennial, which means the 250th, celebration of America. But it was great. It was an amazing time. So, and just a great time being there, Residents attending the Juneteenth Jamboree reflected on the meaning of the holiday, sharing personal perspectives on freedom, heritage, and community. The celebration brought together families and community members to honor the history of Juneteenth while highlighting the importance of preserving its legacy for future generations. Our very own Jake Schaff has the story.
The Juneteenth Jamboree celebration in West Bloomfield is one of the most anticipated events of the year. Seeing families from all across the community stopping by for a fun community event filled with education and inspiration. And this year, the Covenant Baptist Church in West Bloomfield was the setting for it all. I had the chance to speak with a few visitors for this year's event to hear why this is so important for families and for future generations to understand about the core values of Juneteenth.
It's awesome. I'm just really happy that African Americans are being recognized for their achievements and their trials and tribulations, and that I'm really into us being one, everybody being one, the love of everybody, no matter who you are, no matter what you look like, no matter what color. And this is just another opportunity to say we're all one, we're all God's children.
It's awesome. I was just talking to a friend of mine how such a great event, perfect weather, great community, lots of activities for adults, kids, everything. Yes, it's awesome.
It's a very teachable moment for your kids. I see you're with your family today. What is it like to be sharing this moment with them and for them to be understanding the holiday and to be having such a fun day?
It's complicated because, as kids, you're trying to teach them about history, and part of history is not pleasant. So explain to them about slavery, but also efforts to, towards freedom, and also trying to work towards equality, but also acknowledging that things are complicated with our relationships with each other. So it's a good teaching moment, but also it includes something of optimism, but also something of the pain that our society goes through and has gone through.
And what does it say about the direction that Greater West Bloomfield is going in to be having these inclusive events like this one?
I think it's awesome because it's not just certain races here today. It's a blend of races. We're coming together as a people, and we're looking at the love we have for one another. it's awesome. It's what we really need to move forward. You don't know where you're going if you don't know where you came from, right? And you can't share information, or you can't correct your mistakes if you don't know what your mistakes were in the past. You repeat them. So coming together as a people and as a family and teaching your children about the legacy of your life. A lot of times we just hear negative things, but the opportunity to hear positive things of what African Americans have done for this country is awesome.
This event keeps getting bigger and better every single year. Love seeing all the people out here within Greater West Bloomfield celebrating Juneteenth today and continuing to spread the message of positivity and inclusivity everywhere they go. For Civic Center TV, I'm Jake Schaff.
And we thank Jake for getting that story out there. It looked like a great time. Me and, Tyler were here during when the event was happening, running a live show, and we were just like, man, everybody's dancing. Even though we may not be the best, we wanted to get out there and do it. But we thank Jake for getting that story. And it was just, I know it was a great time out there. Families from across Metro Detroit gathered in West Bloomfield for Jark Fun Village, a free community event that promotes inclusion, connection, and fun for individuals with developmental disabilities. The event featured activities, entertainment, and resources designed to bring people together in a welcoming and supportive environment. Our very own Jake Schaff spoke to Diane Charles, President and CEO of Furniture Bank of Metro Detroit, to learn more about this.
Diane, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Now, this is such a really fun challenge. For those unfamiliar with the Furniture Flip Challenge, who've never heard it before, what is the concept? How did this event get started?
Well, first, let me explain what the Furniture Bank is.
Of course.
So we've been a charity that has been around for 6 decades. And what we do is we collect donated furniture from the Tri-County area, and then we match them with families in need.
Once again, we're talking with Diane Charles, the CEO of the Furniture Bank of Metro Detroit, talking about this year's Furniture Flip Challenge. It is the 2nd annual Furniture Flip Challenge, taking unique works of art, discarded furniture, and supporting a meaningful community cause. It's culminating in a very, very incredible event on September 10th at the Village Club in Bloomfield Hills. Now, as we were saying, talking about the concept behind the Furniture Flip Challenge and how this event came to be.
So about the Furniture Bank, well, sometimes we don't get gently used furniture. Sometimes they come back with 3 legs instead of 4 legs, or some tables that are kind of been abused. And so our goal is to provide comfort, dignity, and, to our families. And if it's not gently used, then we put it in the landfill. And that just would break my heart. So we came up with this initiative last year where we would take these unwanted pieces of furniture, put it aside, and see if our creative community here in Detroit could come up with, maybe upcycling or flipping it. I was blown away with what we saw last year. We had 90 flippers. We had over 150 pieces. People took little end tables and turned them into lending libraries, dressers into bars, a dresser into a dollhouse. Some of them were really beautifully restored. So it was a really fun event. And then what we did is we auctioned those items off. So, the Furniture Bank would have a fundraiser. And then Hillary Farr was able to award the grand prize winner.
That is amazing. Quite a big impact this event has already had. I mean, as you said, last year's event attracted nearly 100 participants, so much creativity, so much innovation. What makes furniture flipping such a unique way to combine artistic expression with community service?
I said it had like the 77 C's. It was creativity. It was saving the conservation. It was contest. It was coming up with the cash. It just had all these great fun elements to it. And what's so cool is that you have some experienced flippers, you have some DIYers, people who have never done it before. It doesn't matter because, the one that won last year had never done it before. And they all admire each other's work.
Sounds like it. I mean, and that's great that it's open for everybody, no matter how much experience you have when it comes to something like this. And all the money raised is going to an amazing cause. How does the money raised through the Furniture Flip Challenge directly support the Furniture Bank's mission and the families that you serve?
Great question. So obviously, we have 2 trucks that crisscross the city 6 days a week. So that helps our operations. We have a warehouse full of furniture so our families can come in and pick out the furniture that they would like, which is very cool. And then we also help support, now this is going to break your heart, that 20,000 children tonight will go to bed without their own bed. And so 20,000 children, think about Little Caesars Arena, will go to sleep with a family member on the sofa or on the floor. And so some of this money helps to buy brand new twin mattresses, pillows, bedding for these children.
I mean, that really puts things in perspective. I mean, we want to see that number go down. We want to see that number hit 0. Everybody have furniture for their homes. Everybody have a bed to sleep in at the end of the night. And this kind of touches on this next question a little bit, but why is it important for community members to understand the role that furniture plays in helping families, especially ones that are rebuilding after very difficult circumstances?
All right, let's think about that. How would you like to go home tonight and you don't have a bed? Or you don't have a table to sit and eat your dinner, or a sofa to sit and relax, or to read to your children. You think about, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's water, sleep, food, shelter, and you can have a house, but you don't have a home until you have furniture. And you can't believe how many families don't have a table to sit at or a bed to sleep. And so by just providing those simple, essential items can be life-changing. And many of these families have transitioned out of some kind of life crisis. It could be homelessness, domestic violence, fire, flood. And when you're trying to heal, you need that calm space, that place where you feel safe. And I think that, doesn't everyone deserve that?
They absolutely do. I mean, everybody deserves that place where they feel safe, they feel welcome, and they feel comfortable with where they are. And it's amazing that this event is helping to provide all of this furniture and all these pieces for everybody.
And the cool thing about the Furniture Bank, too, is, first of all, the average house has 300,000 items in it. Now, granted, it could be paper clips or whatever, but we are a society of stuff. And if we just all went through our homes and said, you know what, I haven't used that dresser, that bed has not been slept in, and, maybe somebody else can use it. And then think about that. And what I really am proud of the Furniture Bank is that when you donate to the Furniture Bank, it's in someone's home within 1 to 2 weeks. We turn over that warehouse about every 10 days. That's how great the need is. We have about 150 families waiting at any time for furniture.
Amazing. Everything is amazing what I'm hearing, and it's so great that we're hearing about this event. For those just joining us on the Splash Live, I'm talking with Diane Charles, the president and CEO of the Furniture Bank of Metro Detroit, talking about this year's, the 2nd annual Furniture Flip Challenge, and it's all culminating in the Furniture Flip Bash on September 10th, where you guys are going to be auctioning off the items that were created throughout this challenge. What can attendees expect from the Furniture Flip Bash, and why should people consider attending that?
Well, first of all, we have about 20 items already being picked up. People can pick up items until the end of August. And it's a $30 entry fee because we want to have a little skin in the game for a chance to win $5,000. We have different categories. So we have Best in Show, we have Best Transformed, Most Creative, Best Children's Piece, Most Restored, and then our grand prize winner that Hillary Farr will announce the night of the bash. And I mean, the bash is a fundraiser for the furniture bank, but it's so fun because you get to see all this creativity. Hillary Farr is just a delight, big personality, and she really knows her stuff. And if you're into, homes at all, she's got great advice and all that good stuff. It's at the Village Club, which is a really nice venue. Their food last year was great. We take over the entire space, inside, outside, so you get to walk around, enjoy looking at the pieces. And then there's a silent auction where you can bid on the pieces, and the pieces that have been flipped started anywhere from like $10. So, it will go up, 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 and up.
All these great pieces are on display. It's great that we already have some items that are going to be available for the auction this year, and we want to see as many people as possible helping out with this. And you touched on this a little bit ago about how it's open for everybody, people with a lot of experience, people who've never done this before. And
the entire state of Michigan, you have to be 18 years old, but the entire state can come. Last year we had people from Port Huron, Big Rapids, downriver. We have a new location this year. So we just moved 2 weeks ago to Madison Heights, to a space that's about 3 times as large as where we were in Pontiac. And we would love to invite you out to see it. It's at 339 East Whitcomb in Madison Heights. We're really proud of it. And, we would love to have you out. Come take a look at the furniture bank, because it really is one of the best kept secrets in Metro Detroit.
Sounds like it, and you guys are just making an impact everywhere you go. I got a couple more questions, Diane. For someone, what would you say to someone who's maybe considering entering this competition or attending the Furniture Flip Bash for the very first time this year?
Well, we're going to have a workshop on Wednesday night where we have an expert who specializes in refurnishing furniture, giving tips and educating you how to prepare the wood. So that's Wednesday night at 6 o'clock at the Furniture Bank. I don't think you should be intimidated at all, because there's all types of pieces, that from bookshelves to, headboards to end tables. It's really, where does your imagination take you? And go for it. I mean, what's a $30 chance to try to at $5,000?
That's right. Go for it. I mean, just try it. See what your creativity spits out and see what you end up creating for everybody to see. It's going to be a lot of fun. Last question, Diane.
What's so cool is that we had a huge age range from young to old, men and women. One guy last year, I was blown away. It was just a basic tabletop, butcher block round table. And I thought, okay, he's going to put a new base on it. He comes back and he cut the table in half. The top half he turned into a boy's headboard where he put like blue cording. And then he took the other half and made it into a nightstand out of one piece of wood. And he won for most transformational.
That is amazing. That's just a taste of the creativity that is going to be on display with this event. Last question, Diane. Beyond the competition itself, what message do you hope participants and attendees take away about creativity, sustainability, and helping neighbors in need?
Well, I think you hit it right there. Is at the end of the day, there's so many ways that we can support one another, whether it's buying a jar of peanut butter for a food bank, or volunteering, to work at a 5K, or donating a piece of furniture that you haven't been using that somebody else can.
I love it. All great ways to help out the community, and it can all be done with this amazing event. Diane, thank you so much for joining us today here on The Splash Live.
Enjoyed speaking with you, Jake.
An interview by our very own Jake Schaff. One Metro Detroit athlete is proving that endurance can be about more than crossing a finish line. Ryan Walker recently completed the Pine Lake Ultraman, a self-designed 320-mile challenge that pushes limits while raising awareness and support for Hope Shelters, a Pontiac nonprofit serving individuals and families experiencing homelessness. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hi. So for those who don't know in the community, tell us a little bit about what the Pine Lake Ultraman is, and then just overall what an Ultraman is for those who don't know.
Yeah, it's not the most popular event. So it's 3 days, and it starts out with a 6.2 mile swim, and for the Pine Lake Ultraman, I did that around Pine Lake. And right after that, you ride your bike 90 miles. And so you have 12 hours to finish each day. So you hop out of the lake, you change into your bike gear. I had time to have a quick sandwich, and then you hit the road on your bike. The second day is a 171.4 mile bike ride. And then the third day is a double marathon, 52.4 miles. So across 3 days, you have 36 hours to complete 320 miles of swimming, biking, and running.
Wow. That's amazing. You know, I was listening to what you're saying, and I'm like, okay, I've done all those things, but you know, not over 3 days, maybe like a week, you know, and
Same.
Yeah, and I think after you said the sandwich, I was like, I probably would have stopped then, you know, after, you know, just you got the sandwich, I'm good, I'm going to do that. But you know, for doing something like that, spending 3 days doing different things, and you know, it's really about endurance. Once you crossed the finish line, what were the emotions like? How did you feel after that?
I mean, each day sort of had its own. I was lucky because since it was a self-designed event, the finish line was my driveway. So I would see my family. Some nights, friends came over, we'd have some food. But on the last day, we're making our way back toward my neighborhood, and I had my two sons with me. They're 13 and 11. And we get to the start of my neighborhood, and my wife was there with my daughter, who's 8, and the 3 kids ran with me with some other friends behind us. And my daughter looks back and she goes, "We always cross the finish lines with you, Daddy." And a lot of times, anyone who's done these endurance events, there's a lot of solitude out there. And the fact that her at 8 years old recognizes that, yeah, they do cross the finish line with me a lot, that really made it special. And so the emotions were high, big group hug, and then lots of food. We had some Dave's Hot Chicken and some sushi, big smorgasbord that we celebrated together.
I love Dave's. That sounds so good. And I think that's so beautiful that, you know, like you said, it ended at home. And so that last push, you know, sometimes you're just tired and, you know, you're going through the, you know, normal emotions of doing something for 3 days. But that last push is just amazing, you know, just to see your family and, you know, everything. And, you know, I heard this was a course that you know, had designed yourself. So what, you know, and designing this yourself and doing this yourself, what did that look like instead of just, you know, other Ultramans participating in that? What was, you know, specific and special about this one?
Well, you know, the fact that you could design it yourself and it could be close to home, I designed it in a way where I'd be able to actually go to Hope shelters each day. I was there on day 1 and day 3. Made some alterations on day 2 just because the bike ride was so long, and to hit it in 12 hours, wanted to stay on the trails versus the city miles. But especially on the 3rd day running to the shelter, my wife and one of my really good friends that I work with were there waiting, and they had people that are volunteers there, people that run the shelter, and guests themselves had signs out, and they're cheering and ringing bells. They filled up our water bottles, gave me a granola bar, hugs, sharing their stories, and just what the event meant to them. That's really what, it was at that moment that I really was like, this is why, you know, it's why in terms of raising the funds, but also why I wanted to do it the way I did and designing the course that way.
Yeah, and you know, with what you said, a lot of it comes from, you know, community involvement. You said a lot of people there cheering you on, you know, telling their stories, and your family's there and everything. And, you know, you've been open about, you know, about your mother's story and everything. And so, you know, just explain a little bit about what that means, you know, in connecting with this Ultraman that, you know, openly talked about, you know, her story and everything.
Yeah. So her story, and this is the 3rd year that I've teamed up with Hope Shelters to do an event that would raise funds for them. I tell people this, it's 10 miles from my front door. I ran there 2 days ago, but it feels like you're in another world when you're there, and they're our neighbors. And it's important that, you know, I'm lucky to be in the position that I'm in and to be able to do these types of events, that I want to be able to give something back. And going back to my mom's story, you know, I watched her growing up as a kid do these sorts of things. I would say compassion would be the #1 attribute I'd use to describe her. But in addition to that, she had her own struggles. And I think that was the seed of a lot of her compassion, was that she did suffer from addiction and bipolar disorder. Ultimately, that's what led to her death in 2008. And ever since then, my siblings and I, we've done what we can to preserve her legacy and her memory and do things that we saw her do while she was living that would make her proud and that, make our communities better places to live. They really do bring people together.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you guys are doing an incredible thing. So I know she, smiling down, she's very proud of you guys because this is something amazing, and you did it. And especially like you said, it's more than just an athletic achievement. It's more than just saying, hey, I did this, I swam, I did all these things for 3 days, but it's connecting to something. And tell us about, just your mindset going through it, in connections with, you're doing this for hope and everything. So just tell us a little bit about your mindset going through, in connections with this place.
You said it perfectly right there. Yes, I've gotten into these endurance events. I call it season 9. It's been like 9 years of consistently doing something where each year it would grow a little bit. I started out just wanting to be able to run 6 miles a week. And if I could do that and be consistent, that's 300 at the end of the year. Now I did an event that's over 300. But connecting it back to the community, like you said, it's the mission of hope, but it's also just seeing all the people around me that were inspired by this. A couple quick stories, like the run on day 3, I was never alone. I started the day I ran 4 miles with my oldest son and then met up with some friends. And I had 4 or 5 different friends that day run their personal best. One guy that I work with ran 17 miles for the first time. The other one, his previous long was a half marathon. He ran 30 miles that day. I had one of my best friends from New York. It was his birthday. He took a 6 a.m. flight, surprised me, met me at mile 26. I was right about halfway through, ran the equivalent of a marathon in the hot sun on his own birthday, then turned around and flew home to be with his kids on Father's Day, took a 7 a.m. flight back. So these acts of selflessness, the community, the people that were supporting me, whether it was just cheering or stopping to take a photo or handing me a Gatorade, it meant so much. And it's honestly why I kept going and why I wanted to push myself to do something that was this big. And I also promised my family that this is the last thing that'll ever be this big. This is it. This is the pinnacle.
It's a pinnacle for sure. And I just love the fact that, you also are, a lot of people see your commitment to this and they see what you're doing it for, and they come from all over, like you say, you had a friend fly in, just to come and run and, just spend that time because you're setting a great example, And so, with that, just the inspiration for other people. Now you've already raised over $34,000, for this, and because of your athletic pursuits, because you're doing this and you're out there running, biking, swimming, doing it all, how have you seen, that affect those people around you? How's it been to see that, people are, affected by this in a positive way?
I've seen people, whether it's a cause that they want to get behind, a weight loss goal they want to hit, or just starting to run on their own. They say, I've never run before in my life, but you inspired me to start trying, and now I get out there and do it. I think that's the biggest takeaway. The other thing that I realized, and I realized this really at the start of day 3, in talking to my siblings and talking to friends, and I had a friend that passed away a few years ago, and I've really tried to stay close with his kids. And his daughter had just graduated, and she sent me a thank you card, just thanking me for how much it meant that I helped her feel connected to her dad over the years in the small ways that I was able to show up for her. And in that way, an event like this and the way a community comes together, it also lets people reclaim the legacies of people that they lost. Like just no one should ever be judged by their worst day, right? And if someone loses their life to suicide, that chances are that was their worst day. That was their most painful moment. And that doesn't have to define their whole life. And I think that was the biggest thing that I took through all this, because, there's lots of families out there that struggle with mental health, addiction, things that are they're really hard, not just on the person going through them, but the whole family unit. And this has been really healing for us. It's meant a lot to me, and I know through the people that have reached out to me as it's been going on, it's helped a lot of other people heal as well. So whether it's something big like this, or just studying hard and getting a degree, or whatever it is, whatever pursuit people use to tell their story and make meaning from it, I would just encourage them to do that. Follow your heart and lean into that, because again, this was just my way, but there's thousands of different ways that people could go about it.
Absolutely, and I think that's such an amazing thing that, you know, it's so many, you never know what you do when you want to make a plan for this. You never know who it's going to affect, you know. You just say, I have a purpose, I have a great cause that I'm doing this for, I'm connected with Hope Shelters, but then everybody else who's affected positively by this is just such a wonderful thing, because now that you say you help other people heal, and I think that's such an amazing thing for the community. Mental health is a big thing, and a lot of times we don't talk about it, and I think events like this get people out, and it is a mental endurance that you have to go through, you know. Like I said, you know, after that first time, you could have stopped, but you kept going, you kept pushing, and that showed others, hey, even though that, you know, I'm going through something hard, I see that, you know, Ryan has done something to push through, I can push through, you know, as well. And so I got a few more questions for you, and just the one thing I want to ask you is, what do you hope that, you know, those who have seen this and heard about it and seen you do these things, what do you hope that they have taken from this to use in their everyday life?
The one thing I would underline the most is I hope that everyone realizes that they are capable of going a little bit further than they think they can. That moment when we think we're at our limit and we think it's time to stop and we've gone as far as we can go, whether that's something like running or your work or your business or you're studying for school, whatever that thing is, you have a little bit more. Tap into that, lean into that. And once you do it once, you expand what you're capable of. Your capabilities keep growing as you keep growing. This is a perfect example of that. I didn't show up and just do this 320 miles. I built 9 years to get to this point. Every time you push beyond your limits expand.
That's amazing. It does. Every time you do that, you go farther than you think you can. And last question for you, Ryan, what is next for Ryan Walker? What is next for you? Is there anything, you know, in the future that we can look forward to?
So in terms of like endurance things, my sons, they're 13 and 11, they wanted to do an event called 4x4x48. That was their New Year's resolution. So in August, we're going to do that together. And the way that works is you run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. So over 2 days, you'll have run 48 miles. And they're young. And I said, we can switch to bike if you need to. But so athletically, that's the next big thing. But as a family, we are looking forward to hosting a dinner at Hope Shelters. That you have to be 18 to serve. So my wife and I and maybe some friends will do that, but we're going to prepare the meal at home and take it there. It's something we try to do to give back, and getting down to that one-to-one level where you're talking to someone as an individual. We're all just people, and you hear their stories. They tell me that it means a lot to them. Well, they mean a lot to me as well. There was one guy who came up to me during the event, gave me a big hug and said that he had lost his mom in a similar way than I did. And he's been a guest at the shelter. And Katanya Jones, who runs the shelter right now, had texted me that night and said she had a conversation with him that he said, you know what, I'm going to focus on my health and I'm going to get my life in order. I'm going to give it my best shot right now. And maybe that was the spark for him. I hope so, because one little spark can change someone's whole life. I'm an example of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, you're a prime example of what it means to, you know, push beyond your limits and do what you know, go beyond what you think you can't do. And I think that's such an amazing thing, you know, impacting community. I'd probably like to join that, you know, the 4x48, you know, with your sons, but I'll probably have to walk out. Probably not. I'll walk with them, not run with them. Ryan Walker, thank you so much for joining me today on the Splash Live.
Thank you. This was really nice. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. And that was Ryan Walker, creator and finisher of the Pine Lake Ultraman, and we just wish him the best on all his future endeavors. The Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society is opening doors for a special community event celebrating local history and cultural heritage. A new exhibit at the Orchard Lake Museum highlights the stories and contributions of the Jewish community as part of an ongoing effort to preserve the diverse history of Greater West Bloomfield. Our very own Tyler Keefe spoke to Catherine Cagney about this.
Dr. Cagney, thanks for coming on the program.
Hi, Tyler. Thank you for having me.
Happy to have you on as we preview this special event with the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society. Often they'll have their open houses that allow people to see a little bit of a wide scope of our local history in Greater West Bloomfield. This focusing on a particular demographic of our community that has quite an extensive history in the development and the progress of our community here in Greater West Bloomfield. Starting from that baseline, why is it important for us in our local area here, whether we live in West Bloomfield or the Tri-Cities nearby that make up that so-called greater West Bloomfield area, that we learn about some of these larger demographic groups and their history as it relates to our hometown.
Jewish people make up more than 30% of West Bloomfield, so it's an incredible community that is right amongst us. There are 10 synagogues in West Bloomfield. There's an incredible diversity within the Jewish community, so it's not only a way to showcase the ins and outs of that community, but for those of us who are not Jewish to learn about the Jewish community, which has been a part of West Bloomfield for more than 100 years.
And so, of course, we have those micro communities that connect to the macro, the synagogues, the temples that make up our community. Those are certain areas that can have a widespread history in this neighborhood or that neighborhood, or connect different corners of our community together through their religious backgrounds. So what are some of the more interesting stories, photographs, artifacts, and others that you'll have with you on site to present to the community that tells maybe a different angle of the story of our local Jewish history?
So just like other Detroiters of means in the early 20th century, Jewish people came to greater West Bloomfield in the summertime to escape the city, escape the grime, the heat. And so it is a long and unbroken history all the way to the present with the presence of Jewish people. One of the interesting things that we learned in the course of researching for this exhibit panel was that because Jewish people were excluded from country clubs in the early 20th century, you think about Orchard Lake Country Club, Pine Lake Country Club, the Jewish community moved very quickly to establish Jewish country clubs. Knollwood opened in 1925, so did Tam O'Shanter, although it didn't become Jewish-owned until the 1940s. But in the course of our research, we discovered that actually there were plans for a third Jewish country club, which predated those previous two. In 1920, there was a Jewish fraternal organization that had bought 1.5 miles of shoreline on western Cass Lake with the idea of opening a Jewish country club there. And so that country club did not come to pass, but an interesting piece of history that has been completely forgotten.
And tells us a story of progress that had to be made, even in a community that does value its diversity, that does have such a widespread Jewish community here and so many others that connect to it. It tells us a very different story than maybe we would think about a community that nowadays would never have that sort of division at its core. And that's a really interesting angle to explore, Dr. Kangany. Why is it something that people today should learn about as they go to an open house like this or explore their local history?
So Greater West Bloomfield is a very tolerant place. There's a long history of peaceful coexistence with ups and downs. I think we all, Jewish and non, were horrified by the attack on Temple Israel in March. And it was a time for the community to pull together. One of the things this exhibit tries to do is to take the long view on that history, to talk about the moments of anti-Semitism that have happened here, including the restrictive deeds on neighborhoods, on lake associations, on country clubs, and to show that progress, to show the ways in which we have come together. And it is a tolerant and diverse community in a way now that it wasn't 100 years ago. And so I think we can all take a lot of pride in that.
How does learning the history of our friends, our neighbors, our colleagues, our other people adjacent to us in the community, their cultural history, help make for a more welcoming community in greater West Bloomfield and beyond?
I mean, we know that the more diverse opinions you have around the table, the richer the brainstorm will be. And I think we can extrapolate that to the community level and beyond. This is a chance for the Jewish community to show the achievements, the experiences, the ways of life that non-Jews may not be aware of that are happening right around them. And it's also a chance for the non-Jewish community to learn about this rich diversity of experience right among their neighbors. So I think it's good for everybody, and this exhibit is designed to help instill community pride as we're learning about each other.
This is all part of a greater program through the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society, the Greater West Bloomfield Diverse History Project. Take us through the goals of that and how an exhibit like this open house, fits into the vision for that project.
So the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society has put together a project that's a year-long undertaking to diversify and enrich in the stories that it's telling in the Orchard Lake Museum. The Jewish community piece is first. This is the open house that's on Sunday, June 28th. 3 months after that, there will be a similar Chaldean exhibit panel, and then in December, one for the African American community. So this is a part of a larger project that the Historical Society is undertaking to show these rich, long histories of residents of Greater West Bloomfield. So it's a year-long project that they are very pleased about.
The Jewish History Open House, Sunday, June 28th, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. at the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society's Orchard Lake Museum. That is at the corner of Orchard Lake and Long Lake here in our community. Dr. Catherine Kangany joins me on the Splash Live today. She is with the Jewish Historical Society of Michigan, serving as their executive director, and she will be one of the guest speakers at this open house with the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society. Dr. Kangany, this is also part of a widespread America 250 project. A grant helped to make this project possible with an organization like the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society. How did that grant funding factor into being able to make extensive presentations on these many different critical demographic backgrounds and communities that make up the melting pot of Greater West Bloomfield?
Well, certainly the project would have been a lot harder to pull off without those funds. They were really critical. And it's not only the exhibit panels. This diversity project is also about capturing oral histories, people's stories, experiences about being here in this community. So there will also be a chance for Jewish and Chaldean and African American members of the community to record their stories with Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society. And those oral histories then will become part of GWBHS's permanent record, permanent collections. So these things will live on far beyond the exhibit panels, which is exciting.
As Dr. Kangany mentioned, the Jewish Community Open House, that historical panel will be on June 28th. Coming up in the months ahead, the Chaldean community will have a panel on their history in the fall, as well as the African American community right around December. More information on all of those events, as well as the Greater West Bloomfield Diverse History Project, can be found on gwbhs.org. Also a great place to go to submit some of your stories, your family and community history, to add to projects like this for maybe America 350 and beyond. Dr. Kangany, a lot of these stories you put together for this presentation tell all the different histories of our local business community, families migrating to Greater West Bloomfield, not just as a vacation community, but to make this their permanent residence that grew us into the community that we are today. Along the way, as we get ready for some of the great stories you'll tell on June 28th, what were some of the more surprising things that maybe you came across that people will learn more about as they talk to you and others at this open house?
So we know that the first Jewish residents in West Bloomfield were those vacationers who began coming as day trippers and as seasonal residents beginning in the 19-teens and 1920s. But we learned about just how much infrastructure the Jewish community created beginning really in the 1930s and beyond, not only to support those people who were living Jewish lives in a seasonal way, but then eventually in a year-round way. So that by the 1940s, we are really seeing year-round Jewish residents in Greater West Bloomfield. So finding out about the early kosher butcher shops and the Jewish bakeries and certainly the synagogues that begin arriving in the 1970s. There's a whole undergirding for the community that happens in those decades that was very interesting to learn about.
And history is complicated. We learn that when we read a history book, when we reflect on critical moments in our history like World War II, the Civil War, and so on and so forth. Local histories, like you had mentioned earlier on, the recent and horrific attack at Temple Israel that happened in March. How do these sorts of conversations and learning opportunities help to uncomplicate that history a little bit, contextualize our presence, and ultimately achieve the goal that is, I would imagine, at the core of these events, bringing these diverse communities in Greater West Bloomfield even closer than they already are?
So there has been a history sort of up and down of anti-Semitism in Greater West Bloomfield. We're certainly in a moment of that now. There also was significant anti-Semitism in the 1930s. One of the reasons that so many Jewish people settled around Cass Lake to vacation beginning in the 19-teens is that it was one of the few lakes that was not restricted. Jewish people were not prevented from settling there. But after Adolf Hitler came to power in 1933, we see a move among non-Jewish residents of Cass Lake to begin restricting Jewish vacationers and homeowners. And 80% of those non-Jewish homeowners voted in favor of restricting Jews beginning in 1933. So it's an interesting through line, an interesting up and down of moments of anti-Semitism. But I think the thing that we can take away, not only from the long-term history, but also from March to now, is that this community does pull together in moments of crisis. It is a remarkably tolerant, peaceful community. And I think that's something we all should be proud of, and something to take away certainly from this exhibit on June 28th.
We learn about each other, we learn about ourselves, we make a better world and a more connected community close to home. Dr. Kangney, thank you so much for your time today. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Once again, if you want to see that exhibit, that is June 28th from 1 to 4 p.m. Sunday, June 28th from 1 to 4 p.m. at the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society. Families from across Metro Detroit gathered in West Bloomfield for JARC Fun Village, a community event that promoted inclusion, connection, and fun for individuals with developmental disabilities. The event featured activities, entertainment, and resources designed to bring people together in a welcoming and supportive environment. Our very own Tyler Keefe spoke to Shandel Brondestein more about this.
Shandel, thank you for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me. Good morning.
Yeah, glad to have you on to talk about this. It's a really fun event that's going to get a lot of people out to the J, Detroit, formerly known as the Jewish Community Center of Metropolitan Detroit, a place where so many people do go for recreation. But in this case, it's going to bring all different kinds of people, all different kinds of with all different kinds of abilities together for a really inclusive day of fun. Break that down for us. What can we expect, and what are the basic details of this event?
Okay, so absolutely. First of all, and I'm glad you have it up on the screen, June 28th. And I think you mentioned a lot of people are familiar with the J, right? West Bloomfield, right at Maple and Drake. But our hope is that we're going to transform the J for Fun Village. So Fun Village has a dance hall, right? Has an art studio, has an arcade, has food and fun and lots of activities. And most of all, JARC Fun Village also has a place where you can decompress, right? A sensory friendly space. The noise is a lot. I need to take a break and then I'm ready to go out into the fun. But we're really looking to take the J and turn it into the best day that anybody could ever have, and have that be focused on all the cool things that we get to do at JARC all the time.
And what's great about this, too, is it highlights providing inclusive environments for people with disabilities, but also what's even more important is having an inclusive environment like this that does have elements of fun, elements of relaxation, getting away from the action also all included, is it shows the variety of different ways of life that we all have. And that, I would imagine, creates a much broader vision of what it means to have a so-called disability versus being so-called normative.
Absolutely. And I think that spectrum is really important, because think about any of us. You know, we're having a great day. Maybe we're at a great concert and the music is fabulous and it's loud. And we think, gosh, wouldn't it be wonderful to be able to go someplace quiet right now and take a break from all this noise? And someone might say, oh, okay, well, you know, that's normal. And I think it's really, as you said, defining normal is what a person needs, right? And being able to accommodate every person's needs is what makes this truly an inclusive event. So again, it's not about taking it for one specific person and saying this is something that you need that is outside of scope, but really saying, what can we do for you, for all of us as individuals, to make sure that our personal needs, regardless of what they are met and accommodated?
And so much of this, too, is much like a school teacher tries to devise a lesson plan that gets people learning while also having a little bit of fun so it doesn't seem like it's work. A lot of that's also being employed into this. How do these games, these activities, these other events happening in the JARC Fun Village, how will those help to encourage growth and also social interaction between those attending?
Right. So first of all, I think a lot of times, unfortunately, a person with a disability might feel that's not for me, and they might self-select out. And you can think again, of an environment that may not be designed to accommodate someone as well as this is, and they may think that game looks like a ton of fun. That's an arcade game that I've seen. That's a carnival game that I've seen. I'm not going to be able to do that. So imagine if not only is it set so that if you're in a wheelchair, you can pull right up, right? But set so that you can, and the sense of confidence that you're going to feel when you find that you did have the ability to play that game, or really just the sense of self of, gosh, everything here looks fun, and I know that I can join into everything. And I'm just one of the people, one of the group participating in this event, and that builds, again, that confidence. And through that interaction, you're finding, oh, people are happy to see me. People are happy to play this game with me. People are happy to build this with me. That's going to build your confidence and socialization. And that's going to encourage you to step out of your shell a little bit more and really encourage that I can do this, rather than self-selecting out and saying, this isn't for me. This isn't something I can do.
Sounds like a little bit of fun for everyone. So if you want to attend, you can do so right now. Registration's open. Join them on jarc.org/fun. That easy. JARC.org/fun to register and join them at the J, Detroit, on June 28th. The CEO of JARC is with us on the Splash Live today. Shandel Bronstein joins us on the program to talk about JARC's Fun Village. And there's so much to attract people to this event, so many different tastes and different ideas of what fun is, but also some unique gatherings as well. A pretty good get. The Detroit Symphony Orchestra is going to participate in this event. Tell us how they're participating and how that relationship grew with JARC.
Yes, so actually I would say the symphony is the earliest relationship that we've had in regards to our Ellen Leibis Summer Festival series, and Fun Village is one event of our festival series that began actually as the single event of the Ellen Leibis Evening with the Symphony. And the Detroit Symphony Orchestra came and did a private concert, and continues every year to do a private concert with the people that JARC serves. And the goal was to make people understand that music is for everyone, that classical music doesn't have to be just in a super quiet room that may or may not allow for breaks, that may have sounds that are loud and booming and could feel harsh to me, but that classical music is for everyone to enjoy. And as a part of that, the musicians bring their instruments, and our persons served are able to try them out, to touch them, to feel the strings right on a violin, to play with an instrument and say, that's an interesting sound that makes, and really understand how all of those instruments work together to form a symphony. So we thought, we don't want for the Detroit Symphony Orchestra to be the best kept secret in town. We want to make sure that we share that with everyone, and that every participant, again, young or old, right, regardless of your needs, has an opportunity to really explore the music of our symphony and to get to know the musicians and to get to know the instruments. So we're so excited to share that with everyone, and so thrilled that everyone will learn about the important work that the symphony is doing.
And we got that graphic up on the screen, Calvin. Let's leave that there so that people can take another look at this and explore. I'm going to look down at my screen, a little easier to read for someone as nearsighted as this guy is. June 28th, 12 noon to 3 p.m. at the J in West Bloomfield. That is just off of Drake Road and Maple. Plenty of fun. There's going to be free snacks, kosher food for purchase, inflatables, big games, an art studio, a dance club with so much music, and then the Jarkade with a game hall and instruments that you can play alongside the Detroit Symphony Orchestra. Again, registration is open. jark.org/fun is the place to go for more information and to register. jark.org/fun. And Shane, going back to devising this event before we can even really, as we have, dissect the specifics of it, where did the inspiration come to build the Jark Fun Village? That's now going to be at the J coming up very soon.
Great question, and a piece of it, interestingly, has been a bit of the unpredictability of our Michigan weather. So Jark Fun Village is actually a new name for an event that we've been running for 3 years, and that event was Jark Carnival, and that was an event, again, same concept. Let's have an incredible day of fun. Let's make sure that it's inclusive for everybody. Let's make sure that the stars of the day are the persons with disabilities and their caregivers. And we had more of a midway experience, again, all outdoors. And the first year we had our event at the end of the summer, and it was in the high 90s and very humid. And we thought, okay, let's have our event outdoors, maybe closer to the beginning of the summer. So last year we had our event in June, and it was 100 degrees outside. And I think a lot of people, as much as they enjoyed the midway, spent a lot of time indoors in the cooling space. And as for a person who was working with my team outdoors for the whole day, it definitely was a little much on the heat side. So we brainstormed and said, we don't want to give this up because people have such a great time. But what if we could take all of the great elements of Jark Carnival and incorporate it into something that can be accommodated rain or shine, 70 degrees or 100 degrees or anything in between. And we really took that and morphed it into Jark Village, which let us add some of the components like the symphony, where people could not only, again, enjoy the day, but get a sense of what our people have an opportunity to enjoy throughout the year.
And it's for individuals, it's for families, it's for people with and without disabilities.
Absolutely.
Anybody can come to Jark Village. That's what makes this even more unique, is there is quite literally fun for everyone. Shandel, before we let you go, got a minute left. For people all across that spectrum we discussed, why should they consider attending the Jark Fun Village?
So first of all, it's going to be a great day out, right? Second of all, this is something, again, that is designed to meet everybody's needs. So regardless of your need for an accommodation, we want to be able to meet that. So think of this as an amazing day that is both community-based and personalized. And I want to remind everyone, again, it's a very low cost of attendance for any family or any individual, but if you are a person with a disability or a caregiver of a person with a disability, your attendance is free. You are our guests. This day is really about you as the stars and about our community coming together to celebrate the diversity that really makes us all who we are.
A great opportunity for some fun and to create an inclusive environment close to home right here in Greater West Bloomfield. Shandel Bronstein with us, the CEO of Jark on the Splash Live. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
And that's our show for today. Want to remind you that television as close to home is always online at civiccentertv.com and all across our social media. A big shout out to the crew making all the magic happen behind the scenes, and thank you for being a part of today's journey with us. For our entire team, I'm Jonathan Montgomery. Live, local, social, it's the Splash Live, only on Civic Center TV.